Let's go live
Hi.
and explain.
Hi,
Good
everybody.
morning,
Good
all.
morning.
Welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. I am Dana Dubois, and I have lost audio as soon as we went live. Lawrence,
I'm
take
Lawrence
the
Winterman,
floor.
and Dana will be back in just a moment. Thanks for being here this morning. We're doing a special one off show off of our summer break because Dana and I believe in supporting our community here on Substack and supporting the larger community. I think folks know that I am a longtime fan of the late Reverend Jesse Jackson and his Rainbow Push Coalition and the movement that he created to try to, take America back in the 80s, which, by the way, built on the Black Panthers Rainbow Coalition. Um, and I firmly believe that one of the ways that we move forward as a country is all of us link arms and move forward together. And we have a great guest today from the disability community. Nieta Greene is here, and we will bring her on in just a moment. She's backstage, but Dana and I have to do a little song and dance to kind of say hello and also say Bonnie Tyler, Dana.
It's a heartache, Lawrence.
I
Nothing but a heartache.
well
We
done.
loved
It's a
I
total eclipse
know.
of my heart that we lost her today.
It is. I had to go with the slightly lesser known
I know
Bonnie
that
Tyler
was really
song.
well done.
Well, because it is a heartache. I know she's been sick for a while. I think I've mentioned this here, or at least I've mentioned it in notes on Substack, that for reasons I don't understand on my work computer, my Firefox browser, when I first log in, it thinks I'm in Ireland. And so all of my news is like Irish news or European news. And so I've been reading about Bonnie Tyler because she's Welsh and she died in Portugal. But I did know that she had been placed in a medically induced coma for after an abdominal surgery, intestinal surgery of some sort. But I'm sorry she didn't make it. I'm
Yeah.
uh, as a fellow gravelly voiced human. There was nothing quite like the power of her non-traditional gritty voice and the way it could make us feel like your heart being ripped out.
Yep. Yeah. Um, which is just the way that I feel standard these days because the world is a crazy, crazy fucking place.
We are all kind of having total eclipse of our hearts
Yeah.
every
Can I
day.
ask? We're going to bring Naida on in just a moment, but uh, and actually, I'd love to hear what she thinks about this too. But Graham Plattner withdrawing yesterday. I'm sure you've seen the video at this point, Dana. It was fucking gross.
This is me trying to deep breathe my way through that.
Yeah.
Lawrence, I made the grievous error, not intending to, of, I opened Facebook and I don't know why, but it served me up his ad, or not his ad, but his page twice.
Yeah.
Once a video from him and once a video from her. I didn't watch them, but I looked to the comments, almost universally full of people blaming APAC, screaming about how he's still going to go and win. Um, you know me, Lawrence, and you know how I shy away from cult of personalities.
Yeah.
And this is setting off every spidey sense for me of like, oh God, no. Um, the allegations against him were enough for to raise a whole bunch of eyebrows all along of like, him? Are we sure, guys? Are we sure, guys? So to read this week about the multiple sexual assault allegations against him, including the most recent one about him stealthing his ex-girlfriend multiple times that I wrote about.
Yeah.
That this guy is he seems dangerous and powerful, and I don't like it, not one bit. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want Susan Collins continuing to serve. Like I desperately want her gone. And also, what the hell is Maine going to do? I don't
Yeah.
know. You
Well,
yeah. You have a
what they're
theory
going to
or
do
two?
is they're going to hold a convention, and they can't hold a primary. So for people who are like they should hold a primary, The Maine Democrats cannot. That is a state level decision, and
Mm,
the state has basically told them that they're not spending the money to have a primary. Um,
okay. What do you
they've
think
told.
about that? Just as a general, like,
I think it is incredibly common in politics, and even if it was happening in Washington State, I would expect that the state would be like, "We don't have the money to hold a special election for you guys. You could do a convention." And so the Maine Democrats are doing a convention. And I'm saying that up front because I want people to know that nobody's being disenfranchised. This is a shitty
right,
situation, and the Maine Democratic Party is actually doing the best that it possibly can with a bunch of shitty circumstances. Um, they don't have the funding to be able to do a primary on incredibly short notice, and so they're doing the next best thing, which is a convention. We can all see, we will see how many people they bring in from the community to make it feel like they're getting as much input as they possibly can from, the people who are most impacted, Democrats of Maine, uh, and hopefully they can pull it off and have everybody feel like all voices were heard. But the person responsible here is Graham Plattner, and
right.
the selfishness and arrogance of somebody who knew that he had these things in his past, going out there and presenting himself as a savior and as the only person who could do this, and um, assuring everyone that there were no other shoes to drop. When, as Julie said in her article today, there were DSW shoe stores
Yes.
worth of shoes worth of
Yes.
remaining to drop. Fuck that guy.
Ah, don't fuck that guy, ladies.
Right. Or don't,
From all
actually,
I've
because he's
read,
a creep. Yeah.
he's a creep
Um,
and a drunk, and and a sociopath from what I've seen. Like this,
and so,
and
yeah. And
sociopaths are
I just want to,
super
I don't want to
compelling.
say drunk, right? Like, if he struggles
You're
with
right.
alcoholism, like, please, sir,
True.
there are things you can do to take personal responsibility and join a 12-step program, and like that's I've firmly come to believe alcoholism is a disease,
True.
and stepping up and claiming personal responsibility and figuring out how to live your life in control of that addiction is a thing that he's capable of doing. And certainly, if he wants to be a United States senator, um, I said this with the whole Nazi tattoo thing. Like, can you learn and grow? Sure. Do we want you learning and growing on the job about
Right.
our issues, about the issues of the people in this democracy? Sure. Do we want you learning and growing about basic human kindness things like don't get a Nazi tattoo, and how to treat women with respect? Maybe go do that first before you put yourself forward as somebody who should be running a democracy.
I'm giving you all of the snaps. Karen, thank you for moderating the chat today. She has put a link into my most recent story. This one hits close to home. Doesn't sound like a story that's about him. It's called "The Condom on the Other Side of the Bed," but it is about the act of stealthing, which his ex-girlfriend says he did repeatedly. And it's typical me format, weaving in personal narrative, my lived experience with a political issue. Yeah, this is not a good person. we
Yeah.
we don't have very many Senate seats.
Right.
There
Well,
are only
like, it's a
100.
it's a
They should be
precious
the best of
commodity,
us. Yeah,
right? They're
they should be the
exactly.
best of us.
There are only 100. There's only two per state. Like, they deserve to go to people who get it and get the job and understand that the job is serving the people of your state 24/7 as a United States Senator. With
All the
that,
snaps.
let us bring in our guest. So, Nieta Greene is the founder and CEO of Disability Community for Democracy, which is a peer-run grassroots organization she launched in 2024, during the 2024 election, to build disability political power on the principle of intersectional disability justice. Nieta, did I get that right?
Pretty much, it started immediately after the election,
Okay.
but I've been thinking a lot. I live in New England, so I can kind of talk on this race a little bit differently, as I don't live in Maine, but I
Yeah.
do live in the region.
Please.
And there's two problems with everyone who is Black who doesn't live here in the region, and especially they don't live in the state, and people who don't live in the region, period. Um, the region is divided up into two sections. There's Southern New England, which is Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And then there's Northern New England, which is New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. And everybody's saying, well, especially Black folks, he put on this Nazi tattoo. This is their dog whistle. I'm kind of tired of like hearing like, he's a racist because he put on this tattoo. I'm going to go with the fact that he's saying he didn't know. Like I'm going to just believe him there.
Yeah.
In terms of the sexual assault stuff, and all the other stuff around women, this is what I struggle with. And I struggled with this as a person of color. And, I'm Afro-Latina. I don't do the believe all women because of what has happened to Black men, especially in this country, when we believe women and who get killed with false accusations. So I need white women to understand why Black people who live in the state were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, what happened to Emmett Till, like, that
Till,
wasn't, yeah.
And the Tulsa race massacre was basically over, a white girl, a white woman alleging that something had happened to her at the hands of a Black boy. So yeah, your point is incredibly well taken, Nieta. Thank you for bringing it forward.
And so people who actually have like done the reporting on this, and her name is Shay. I'm blanking on her last name. She's lived in Maine. She's moved from Maine. She lived in a different part of the country. She moved there, and she's Black woman, Black American woman specifically. She's not an immigrant, and I think that's really important for this story. Mm-hmm. She interviewed him and had talked to him and stuff like that. And for me, as somebody who is a survivor of intimate partner violence, which included sexual assault, my red flags went up as soon as the allegations started coming out. Not around like him grabbing people and stuff like that. Stuff gets heated sometimes and people like react badly. That, doesn't mean he was, sexually assaulting somebody. But when that, his ex-girlfriend, who is in conservative politics, said something, I was like, this is not good. And he needed to drop out then. Mm-hmm. And he didn't. And sexual assault is a disabling event. And I'm going to share some personal story around that. Mm-hmm. I was sexually assaulted by my ex-girlfriend the year after I graduated from high school. Mm-hmm. Ended up in a psych hospital almost a year after that. So if anybody wants to downplay this as this is a conspiracy theory, this is a hit job, do I wish this person would have come out sooner? Yes, it probably would have pushed about it a race. And some people are going to say, well, people don't come out in their own time. As somebody who has been sexually assaulted, as much as it is difficult to come out, you knew this guy was running. And you actually, like, people need to own their stuff, right? Like, this is not victim shaming. This is people needed to speak up, regardless of how afraid you are, because you can, I believe courage is being afraid and doing it anyway. And if I was in that position, I would have spoken up as somebody who is a survivor. So I'm saying this as a survivor. I'm saying this for the women who are Epstein survivors, who are speaking up with people still not in jail. So, yeah. And one of them is the current occupant of the White House. So these women who are speaking up and pushing back against this administration, where they can say, hey, all these women are pushing back, have protest psychosis, and we're going to lock your behinds up and give you a diagnosis of schizophrenia, which we've done in the past, then people who were assaulted by him should have spoken up sooner. That's how I feel as a survivor. It's not saying that they did the wrong thing, but he's not as big of a fish as the current occupant, and they're speaking people and people around him, and they're speaking up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, Naida. So Dana shared a video with me yesterday, and it was a person who was, in all seriousness, saying
Oh
that
gosh, I know
uh,
which video you're talking about now.
that the, I mean, I fucking hate it, like that rape did not compare to genocide, and that
Rape is a uh,
I know, I know. Believe
Specifically,
me,
the rape of one person, one
my brain
white
also
woman.
melted.
Yeah.
And the point I think they were trying to make was that like we should still stick with Plattner because he's against the genocide, and it made my brain melt with anger because I'm an adult survivor of childhood sexual assault. You know what? That wasn't a fucking personal genocide. Like it literally changed my entire fucking life. Like it.
so
So I
I'm going to say this for those who do not know history. Please use Google. Use Google. Use Firefox. Use Microsoft.
Bing.
yeah,
Any internet browser. I don't care what you use. Type genocide and rape and see if they go hand in hand. And come back to me.
right.
Come back to me because this is bullshit that somebody put out that video. I'm going to say this right now. Anybody who's saying at this point that they're going to vote for him might as well say they support what Epstein has done, because like I don't want to hear. Well, I personally don't want to hear it as somebody who has like a human consciousness. And again, these women are lucky to be alive because like what's coming out about this man, and I say this again as somebody who survived intimate partner violence, who lives in New England now in Massachusetts, and I'm now I'm a public official, so it's not like I can just like be cagey anymore. I do serve in my city's disability board, so you can look that up. So people could actually find me if they wanted to, unfortunately. Um, and and I'm just like, I moved out of where I'm from. I'm from the tri-state area for
Yeah,
safety. And so, and my cousin was murdered and it was on the news. And
I'm so
so due to
sorry.
intimate partner violence. So these women are lucky that he didn't kill them after they were assaulted. So
right.
they can, as one of my good friends would say, they could suck a whole bag of dicks.
Yep.
These people are dicks. And
My friend says that too.
Right. Yeah.
and so I'm just like, no. And I think about how disabling sexual assault is, and nobody's talking about it. I mean, I'm not saying no one, and I don't mean no one. I mean, in general, no one's talking about the disabling effects of sexual
Right.
assault. Also, nobody is talking about the fact that we have a history in this country, and this has happened to white men too. This happened to the Duke in the Duke rape case, that a black woman accused these white young men at the time of sexual assault, and she wasn't. Also, Tawana Brawley, that case, I remember that I was a little kid. I mean, so there's been allegations that have happened. So it makes it difficult for people to like believe sexual assault, when it happens. And I say, listen, but verify.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And to be like, if there's more than one person saying something, as my mother would say, it's usually true. And I just like, I mean, the only person I feel bad for is his wife at this point.
Right.
I don't feel so bad for her. She seems to be.
It was interesting that he used her as a crutch last night in that speech a lot. He said her name over and over again. We decided, we talked, Amy and I, like he was definitely using her as a shield last night. I just want to acknowledge Christiane. We love you. We support you. Christiane just shared something very intimate and personal and hard in the chat. And so I just want you to know, Christiane, that we we love you. We're glad you're here, and we're all here for you. And Jason is talking about a really hard situation he went through as well. So we love you all in the chat, and we see you.
Yeah, and one of the things I would say, I would say to your Dana, to your co-host about this is that I think they need to bring on Black people who can talk more about the history around why women aren't believed in this country, because there is a racial component to this as well, where if this was a Black man or even a person of color, it would be automatically believed. It's
Oh my
not.
God, yeah.
It's and so I just want people to understand that it's because he was white, and because in Maine they're over 90% whites, and over 90% white state is a very poor state, especially in the district that they have two districts for Congress, and the larger of the two districts is a very poor district, and he spoke to what's happening, and they're sick, and honestly they're sick of Susan Collins. And I'm going to say this as somebody who does not live in Maine. Susan Collins is dangerous for the whole region, and I'm going to explain why. So when ICE decided to come to Maine, she negotiated them to get the hell out. They came here to the Boston area to make our lives miserable. We're very close. We're very interconnected. There's only 6 states in the and most of there's only 6 states in New England, and you can drive to them within a 2 hour not even a day. It's like I could go to Maine. I can be in Maine in 2 hours.
Yeah, little states. I was actually born up there. I was born on the North Shore of Massachusetts.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I went to sleepaway camp in Maine when I was a kid. I would go up from Florida. So spent a little time there. It is beautiful, and it was always so strange to me how quickly you could get from one state to the other.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I'm really scared about in terms of what's happening now, there are going to be a lot of people there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to now vote or are going to write this man in because they're going to say, well, like our vote was taken away. We're not being listened to. This is the corporate Democrats. I'm going to say this right now. This has nothing to do with the corporate Democrats, because even Bernie Sanders said, nah, and he's not a Democrat. I just want to remind people, Sanders is not a Democrat. He's an independent who decided to run for president twice as a Democrat because he's, as far as I'm concerned, scared to run as an independent and do the actual work to run as an independent for president. That's the reason why. So he's not a Democrat. He might caucus with the Democrats. He's like the other senator from Maine, Senator King.
Right, Angus King. Yeah.
Yes, and so you can do that in this region, especially in the northern New England states. It's small enough. And that's really the issue. And I want people to understand, like, when we don't deal with the issues, the disabling issues, and it is Disability Pride Month, of sexual assault and his issues around alcohol, and making sure that he should have gotten. A lot of the stuff happened after he left the military. Right. This wasn't why he was in the military, which is really scary on how our country treats our service members.
You're making so many great points. This is why diversity of opinion and lived experience is so important. I had done the math already of, if this were anyone but a white man, he would have been disqualified so long ago that we pardoned the misadventures of the mediocre white man over and over and over again. Oh, it's PTSD. Oh, he has issues with this, but we have to forgive it because he's our hope. But I hadn't done the calculations around why what you're saying around Black folks not believing women because of how it's worked to harm them in the past. The woman, hold on, I have her name here, Fifield. Am I saying her name right? Lindsay Fifield. She did come forward in the New York Times article beforehand, but wasn't, I'm trying to remember what happened there. It wasn't featured very heavily. So she did come out a second time in the Washington Post. I also, the timing just made my head explode a little because I was like, ugh, this is going to kickstart that whole flywheel again about how we don't believe women. She does have a lot of corroborating evidence from the time, people who have come forward with emails, with text message conversations from when it was happening to substantiate her claims. And if WAPO is going on the record with it, like it is not just somebody with no evidence at all. But I do hear, I hear very much in all those voices on Facebook last night who were on Graham Plattner's in his comment section that nobody believes her. They all think she's a plant. They all think she was bought and paid for. And I do want to say, like, her life will never be the same. She's re-traumatizing herself by coming forward, right? Like, she will now be a household name. You know, I know her name, and people will know details about her intimate life and her darkest moments that are like, she's doing this at personal expense. I am grateful she came forward. And I hope it marks the end of his political career. Although the way we make white men saviors in this country, I don't think it is.
I'm going to say this as somebody who lives in the region. I would not be surprised if he decides to run as an independent, which he probably could at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he will, if he does, he's going to split the Democratic vote, and Susan Collins is going to get in. And I'm going to say this: Susan Collins is a rapist apologizer.
Right.
So, like, as far as I'm concerned, anybody voting for her is also voting for the Epstein class, because because again, I'm going to say this for those in the back. She literally voted. Her vote for Kavanaugh's why our Supreme Court is the way it is.
Yep.
And so I am not a progressive, and I, you know, but I'm not an originalist either in terms of like the Supreme Court and the text because of the history of our country. But I am I lean center right. My news sources, I like Miles Taylor, I like the Bulwark, those are the people I, respect and listen to. Mm-hmm. Even more so than Midas. And the issue I am having with the everybody's saying the DNC and DC. DNC has nothing to do with this. The main Democratic Party is going to run this convention, not the DNC. The mainstream actually supported Mills. She placed second. People are like, well, why can't they just have her run? Because you do ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
So how about Google is your friend? And can we actually understand that there is state law that dictates how elections are run? We can't say we are against the SAVE Act.
Right.
And, and then get mad at states on how they run their elections. Like, either be consistent on that. And again, I just want people to know I live in the region. So I'm saying this as somebody who lives here. Get a clue and stop like saying, well, they're voting for him because he was racist. And I'm like, they voted for him because they support sexual assault. We already have somebody who supports the sexual assault in that Senate seat. So, and
yeah, women were faced with the impossible choice of like, do I vote for the likely rapist or do I vote for the one who enabled the rapist and got him on the Supreme Court? Likely rapist. Sorry, Brett Kavanaugh, don't sue me. It's just rape everywhere, and it's exhausting. Because so many of us have had the lived experience of sexual assault, and it is re-traumatizing or disabling in some cases, as you're saying. So,
and my sexual assault was, just to be clear, was done by I am a gay gender non-conforming woman, and it was done by a woman, not a man. And so that actually like adds an extra layer to my story,
Right.
where I really struggle when women talk about sexual assault, um, uh, and they just make it a heterosexual issue. It's not. Gay men get sexually assaulted by other men. Men who are straight get sexually assaulted by men and women. And I was sexually assaulted, and I separate what happened, in my childhood versus what has happened, because that was more traumatizing, because it was somebody I was in love with.
It was a trusted partner. Yeah, that's so violating. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
And so when the woman's coming forward and saying, I was in a relationship with this man who did this to me, it is traumatizing in ways that even childhood stuff, what people have gone through childhood stuff, is like, I'm not saying it's not terrible, but as somebody who's experienced both, the intimate partner stuff is worse, because you don't get to choose your family. You do get to choose your partner, and you're saying to yourself, my pick is broken. There's something wrong with me.
Right.
And I mean, now I don't like, and I say this, I don't like I've done a lot of work around it, but I do think we need to talk about how impacting this is going to be for the people coming forward. This is going to be impacting for the people who have experienced this and who have been disabled by this. I'm really upset that I'm not surprised about him. I don't want to give him any airtime. He doesn't deserve it. But what I am upset about is she's being dragged, and it's not necessary. And she could present video that it happened, and nobody would believe her, because they would still say it's
AI.
Right.
It's AI. They're going to say whatever. And what we need to do is, and I would love to talk to blanking on her name. This is what happens when you have brain fog due to neurological conditions. What is your two hosts' name, Dana? The ones you
Julie Roginski and Michelle Kinney.
Yeah, I would love to talk to them about that there are more nuances to this conversation than meets the eye. Because of our history of our country, we don't talk about that enough when we have these conversations at all. So I do want to just I do want to say that, and again, I admire them both. I admire the fact that they're standing up. I'm younger than the two of you. I'm technically part of Gen X, but I'm younger than the two of you. So you were talking about the person who died. What was the name of the song?
Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse.
Yeah, I was like, who? I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, who? Because I came of age in the 90s. 90s, and I turned 25 in the early 2000s. So I graduated high school in the 90s, and I graduated college in the early 2000s. So my music was I'm middle school and high school, grunge and the Black Crowes, and so I'm like,
for sure.
Who are you?
But you remember Total Eclipse of the Heart, don't you?
I know the song, but it wasn't part of my, I know that song. That's the only song I know.
Right.
Yeah, I know 3 songs by her.
Yeah, and
Holding out for a hero. Yeah, those songs did not survive the test of time, like Total Eclipse of the Heart, though they are bangers, for the record.
I'm not saying they're not, but when you're when you're not even 50 yet, it's who?
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah.
It's true. Music is so tied to generation, and I want to make sure we come back and talk about Disability Pride Month, because it's July.
Joy in my music. That's why I'm talking about it.
I do. I feel like, though, we could ask our question right now. We usually save it for the end, but I want to make sure that we have time for the conversation around Crip Crow and what's going on with Olmsted. But Nieta, we ask this question of everyone who's on our show for the first time. And it's kind of the perfect moment, because we were just talking about music and generations. Dana, do you want to do the honors of asking the question?
Sure. So the question we ask every guest on their first visit with a wish for a return visit is what is the most Gen X song of all time?
Oh my God. Okay. This is going to be a different answer because there's some overlap between that and technically a Zennial. So
Yeah.
I would say Thorn in My Pride by the Black Rose.
Oh,
Nice.
It's my
okay.
favorite. Anything Black Rose album, first three albums,
Yeah.
any of those songs are really like Gen X, but it's younger Gen X,
Yeah.
not so much older, but younger, like my age group.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's the first Black Crowes appearance on our list.
I
Right.
think so. And our dear friend Jason Odell keeps a playlist. So if you ever want to dive in and hear what every guest from every age group who's been on our show thinks of as the ultimate Gen X song,
That's
he's
the
got it.
song I remember when that song came out. I was it was like the album came out in 92.
Yeah.
So I was either in high school, like my freshman year of high school, or in middle school. I always get it confused with the time because it kind of blurs together because my brother and I are a year apart.
Hmm.
So
Ah,
one of us was in high school and one of us was in middle school, or we're both were in middle school. And I remember it came out like in May, and the album came out in October. Like the actual like album came out like soon after that, and they did Remedy and Thorn in My Pride and sometimes Salvation, and for me, I will say that if you were of my age group, you were listening to in middle school and high school, you were listening to hip hop, like gangster rap, or and conscious rap. So you would
Yeah.
listen to people like Tupac and Biggie and Public Enemy, or you were listening to like OPP and Salt
oh
and
my
Pepper
God.
and Cleveland Latifah, and all of this music that I'm talking about actually, uh, unlike the '80s hip hop, um, transcended race and class.
Yes.
And especially I'm a suburban kid, so I grew
Yeah.
up in mostly
Same.
white spaces. So I am definitely saying that from experience. Like even the Black Crows, like not because the Black Crows, they're from the South, and a lot of their music has a blues influence. So and especially their second album has like more of like the gospel choir influence. So there's a small pocket of Black people and brown people who love them because of their sound there. And then of course grunge, right? I used to wear, okay, the flannel shirts and t-shirts,
Oh yeah.
not white. I used to wear black ones though, and I used to walk around with that. And so that's why I think like it depends on your birth year really with Gen X.
Yep.
Like some Gen
Oh
Xers
yeah.
are like, they would go back to Leonard Skinner if they were born if they were older Gen X or closer to Generation Jones. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're right in the middle. So, and
Hey,
musically astute. And which Black Crow song was it that you named? Because
well, it's Thorn in My Pride.
I don't know if I know that one.
I
It
totally
has
want to
a
go
really
listen to it as soon as we're done because I
I know.
can't bring it to mind, but I know I'm going to know it as soon as I hear it. So I got to go listen
Yeah.
and
afterward.
the album. If you want to look up the album, people want to look up the album is
The
Southern
Southern
Harmony,
Harmony and music.
the musical companion. Yeah, and so I saw them almost a month ago.
Oh,
I
really? They're
went to
still
Greene.
touring.
They are still touring. They have a new album. They've broken up, gotten back together. I've actually met them a couple times. Like I've done meet and greets with them. I love Chris
Wow.
Robinson. Chris
Yeah.
Robinson's dyslexic, and he's 10 years older than I am, and he's dyslexic, and he has a swagger that I like. Like
He does.
I'm gonna say, as I'm like hardcore like lesbian, like I'm like, this man is sexy as hell, and I'm saying this as somebody who's a lesbian, that I would not ever sleep with him, but
Right.
his swagger is like sexy, and women
His,
love it.
his
Yeah.
vocal tone is amazing. Like I remember the first time I heard him was the cover of Hard to Handle. And
Yeah.
I was like, who is singing this? My God, his voice is extraordinary. I like,
And he sounds like a black man too. That's the
it
other
does.
problem. Like not problem, but like
Yeah. Now I want to go listen to that song. Baby, here I am. I'm a man on the scene. Yeah, it's very like cocky. Um, yeah, it's a. I'm gonna go listen to Thorn in My Pride next.
yeah, so I just want to say that, and for me, because it links to Disability Pride Month, I get a disability joy from them. So if I'm not wearing like my orgs t-shirts on live stream, I'm saying say no to Crip Crow, it's the gray shirt today.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my black rose shirts
Nice.
because it gives me a lot of comfort in this time. I actually decided to go to the concert, even though I had a lot of work to do in June, because I needed to.
Oh my
And I
God,
think
always go to the show.
I,
Always go to the show.
I say to people all the time, the work will be there.
Yes.
The work will be there, and the will be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself,
Yep.
and you just got to take care of yourself. The thing that I am really concerned about, right, like right now, and I really want to talk about it, is how I get all this joy from music and how it helps me like do my work. Like, for example, I have so many live streams that I've been on. I have like 3 live streams that I still have to do, like to, make sure the captions are correct. It takes me a while. Sometimes it takes me a week to after I'm on some of these
Yeah.
done. Um, because I have to worry about accessibility in ways other people don't.
Right.
Because of my publication, Nothing About Us Without Us. I need people to understand that people with disabilities, we operate on something called Crip time. I tend to operate on something called I am on time for stuff like when I need to like actually like physically show up for it.
Right.
But I am going to take me longer for those who gonna want to watch the recording of this. You probably won't get it. For those who are in the chat who might want to watch a replay, probably won't get it until at least like 4 or 5 days, maybe a week after. So please be patient. And I've done a lot of live streams, and I think it's important for people to understand in terms of disability that you might see me on screen or you might see Nick on screen, but it takes a lot of energy for me to like actually do this work.
Yeah.
To say no to Crow and to push back and do the damn thing. The work that we're doing right now, it's really scary to be, and I'm going to just say for me, as somebody who traces my father's side of the family traces their ancestry to enslavement in this country. My mother is Puerto Rican and Cuban. I was raised by her, and my stepfather is also Black American. And so when I talk about my parents, it's them. And I understand the significance of what's happening right now in a way that other people do not. They're coming for all of us all at the same time, which they did not do in the past. They have never come for all of us at the same time. They're using every trick in the book, such as ugly laws, which basically, if you were not white, heterosexual, and male, and non-disabled, or if you were disabled due to combat, you were not allowed to be seen. It was disgusting. It was, fragile for people to see people with disabilities. That's how they treated people with disabilities, people who were sex workers or people who were LGBTQ who cross-dressed at the time. They were fine. They were, told to go hide in the house, go into institutions, the poor homes, the whole 9 yards. Like this, it was bad. And I don't think people understand what's happening here with our campaign of Say No to Crip Crow, mine and Nick's campaign. He's the director of framing for Disability Community for Democracy Now, and he's also It's partnership between Disability Community for Democracy and Sick of the Shit Publications.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's taken, and I say this all, I've said this to Nick. I said, look, it's taken the the history of our country has always been somebody who is black and somebody who is Jewish to say enough. And now the joke I said is the blackness has changed in this country. It's not now Black American. It's like I am an Afro Latina and a Jewish person. And on top of that, I also have Jewish ancestry and a Jewish uncle on my father's side. So it's like my family is the United Nations. Like literally, if you see my family, it's like funny.
Lawrence likes to joke that he wouldn't have just had he's like a Lucky Charm, that in Hitler's Germany, he would have had the yellow star and also the pink heart.
The yellow star, the pink triangle, probably green clover. Like literally, I would have just been the full box of Lucky Charms. Like as a gay man and a Jewish man, they would have sent me to the ovens first.
Yeah, and probably the gayness would have sent you way before you be Jewish.
Right. Yeah, they would have just been, we're doing a twofer, like.
Yeah, and I think like for me, like, and I think about this a lot during Disability Pride Month, especially in our country with eugenics, our eugenics history, which is pseudoscience. Racialized pseudoscience based on white supremacy, and white supremacy just is beyond race, and it's gender norms. It's does your body function properly? And the reality is, and I want people to like, and I think we don't talk about this enough. Black people and people of color, Black people specifically, were desegregated first from schools. However, if you had a disability, they were still allowed not to educate you until Supreme Court case in 1974 said, based on Brown, needed to educate disabled kids. It's now called the IDA Act, basically, but it's was signed in the law in 1975. That was before I was born, but not that much before. Mm-hmm. And they were still segregating kids because if you had a learning disability, and when I was in school, you were being pulled out of class at least an hour a day.
Yeah. And I remember that from growing up. I remember for sure totally. That happened as we were in school.
And that was like the transition. And then when the ADA got signed, I was in middle school and I was able to say, I don't want to do pullouts anymore. And it was kind of a compromise of like, I had to do them in 9th grade every day, which meant I had 2.5 years of not being able to take music and art.
Right.
Like, this is the thing that people don't understand about when you have a disability and you live with a disability your whole life. And I have multiple disabilities, is that something is always taken away from you when you assert your right. And especially if you are marginalized in any other way, like if you're gay, lesbian, bi, trans, or you're a person of color or a woman. And I have the only privilege I have is class privilege and an education privilege, which has helped me. The zip code I grew up in allowed me to go to college, because if I lived in the city, in New York City, I would have been completely segregated in special education classes. Versus how I grew up, where I had teachers and they were Jewish. This is the ironic part. Like, people hate on Jewish people right now, but it was the Jewish teachers who actually were like, this girl's smart, we got to get her tested. Something is wrong. Like, also my mom, but it was teachers too. And it wasn't teachers who were Black. I had Black teachers. It wasn't them. They thought I was just a behavior problem. So I want to say this. I love my Jewish people. They actually were the ones who were making sure that I was taken care of, and my friends who were, and my resource room teacher who was from who's half Italian. My father was an immigrant, so it was not like people would say, oh, there's a Black teachers around. Nope, was not. and I did have them
Yeah.
growing up. So
Yeah, I just a little side point here. A stat that I learned recently that I did not know until this year is that during the civil rights movement, during the freedom movement in particular, somewhere between a half to two-thirds of the white people who participated and joined in that movement were Jewish, and they were specifically from the very liberal reform Jewish congregations that believed in tikkun olam, the idea that the world is broken and it is the job of all of us to fix it. And so there used to be in this country a very strong liberal Jewish social justice movement that was, Naida, exactly to your point. Like they were at the forefront of trying to make sure that equality meant for everybody.
Let's bring
I
that back,
know.
Lawrence.
Can I just want to point out we're right at the top of the hour, Naida. If do you have a hard stop at 11, or
no,
can we go a
I
couple
don't.
minutes long? Okay,
I don't
because
have a hard stop.
I knew this was going to happen. Like we're having so much fun talking to you. I think we spent like 45 minutes talking about other stuff, and we haven't really. We're
That
just
stuff
now
was
getting
important though, because all of that stuff is related to disability
for
and
real,
Yeah.
for real. Yeah. Yeah, so I love that you've transitioned us into the conversation around Olmsted and Crip Crow and your experiences. Can you give people kind of an overview of like what is happening? Like I know I've heard you so many times over the course of the last couple of weeks talk about this, so I'm sorry if it feels like
it's
you're
fine,
repeating
but
yourself.
not everybody in your audience has watched those other live streams.
Yeah,
So the 18th, right before day before Juneteenth.
yeah,
And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this as somebody who's Black in this country, who chases some of their ancestry to enslavement in this country. It was the most vile thing that this administration has ever done. Spit on my ancestors, given the history of and I'll talk a little bit about that after I go through what happened. They came out with this memo. It was like almost a saying that basically states have a right to keep people in institutions if they want. That they like basically parceled every single Supreme Court decision to make it basically be like, hey, this is why we are saying this. This does not change law. This changes enforcement and what the Department of Justice legal opinion is. And the problem, and I need people to understand, because all the disability organizations are saying it doesn't change law, it doesn't change law, it doesn't change law, but it changes who is going to support you if you're being sued. And the people who are going to be disproportionately impacted are people who look like me or who do not have the class resources to hire a private attorney, right? Or like it's going to be poor white folks. It's going to be Black and brown kids who are in Title I schools, who don't have the resources to push back when they're being segregated. And it's not just like institutions like psych hospitals or stuff like that. It's keeping people in outpatient programs longer in states where they have forced institutionalization for outpatient programs, like in the state of New York and in California as well. They have care court. And the state's saying, nope, we can keep you. Like they're now gonna lean on this memo, even though state law says something different in some of these states, saying, well, the federal government says. And then you have our territories, right, who are, even though they have their own government, they have their own governors, and they don't have the same level of resource in terms of Medicaid and Medicaid dollars specifically. And a lot of people who live in our U.S. territories like Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands and Guam move here because the resources are better. And they're going to say, well, we don't have to. We can just keep them in institutions. It's more expensive to keep people in institutions, and they can now use this to segregate children. Now, we talked about pullouts. Pullouts is a form of segregation, right? Like that's the reality. And when Olmsted came out, students had IEPs and they had to be in the classroom, right? You couldn't, it had to be really severe to do pullouts for children. And a lot of times now that if they do pullouts, they happen after school or before school starts. And now the schools can say, well, we can go back to the way we used to do things before Olmsted. So they're going to want to segregate kids by disability. So it's just institutions. No, it's not. Stephen Miller, and I know people make fun of the way he looks and all of that. I am not. I don't like that. That's body shaming and it's not helpful. He's evil, and I don't understand as somebody who is Jewish, doesn't understand his own history. I don't know if he hates himself or
None of us get it.
Yeah, like I just don't. He's basically saying, well, why this has his fingerprints all over it because he is up, the current occupants behind so far that these the DOJ is supposed to do their job and hold states accountable for stuff, and they're not. And it's really dangerous, this memo. What we're trying to do, and thank you, Karen, for posting it in the chat, is one, we're asking people, we have 3 call scripts, 3 fax scripts for you to tell your members of Congress, that's your House member and your 2 senators. Congress is both House and Senate, but people always think the House is just Congress and the Senate separate. No, one big entity with 2 chambers. Call them, right? And we have it now set up where you should call, right? Like, so if they're in session, you call DC. If they're not in session, you call the district office. And you call them, you tell them this is what's happening and why, right? And your story. And you do it also via fax and email script. We have 3 different scripts for that. And we're asking them to codify Olmsted decision into the ADA. The Olmsted decisions based on the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 504, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 2. However, it's not codified. Now, there's other bills that one talks about codification, but not money, and another one that talks about like getting codified around money and all of that. We have to play the cards that we're dealt. And it's easier to actually get an amendment to the floor via amending, bills that are not related than it is to actually have a new bill that has to go through committee and the whole 9 yards. And so there are going to be people who say, well, why don't you guys work with the 2 bills that are out? As somebody who is a local official and who also, I have my disability commission meeting tonight. This makes our job harder. Every single time the administration says, we're not going to enforce, HUD's not going to do anything around emotional support animals. This memo comes out about how, people don't need to be placed in the least restrictive environment. It makes it harder for state and local officials to do their job because they don't have the support of the federal government. We're supposed to be all working together as state. The federal government is supposed to partner with us, not against us. And I don't think people understand how this, people are talking about how it impacts the disability community, and rightfully so. But I am also looking at this as somebody who serves local governmental level, who has sworn an oath to the U.S. Constitution and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Constitution. I had to do that earlier this year.
Yeah.
So this makes me very upset because of that. And thank you, Karen, for posting that in the chat. I am also going to post in the chat. We have the Say No to Crip Crow shirts on sale. And if you become a paid subscriber until the end of the month, for annual subscriptions, it's 30% off. And then for shirts right now, there's also a discount. All the money goes to the administrative costs to do this work. I do not get paid to do this. I actually am looking for a new job, like an actual paid position. That actually does that, like my actual career. And I'm a tax person. That's what I do for a living. And so,
oh wow, you contain multitudes.
Yes, and so we are going to come out with some policy asks by Monday evening.
Right.
Most likely, maybe even Tuesday morning, but most likely Monday at the latest, and how we're going to move forward, because we need people with disabilities, but we also need our non-disabled allies to keep calling their members of Congress and work with us and support us with, with being paid subscribers. If you can't become a paid subscriber, you're on Substack, please share the links to the articles. And I want to talk about our veterans, because this is really important. Because I know you had Nick on last week. Our veterans rely on the VA for their care. They're scared. Now, I, as somebody who does not rely on a government entity for my actual health care, I have the option to not worry about it as much. But if you go to the VA and you're a veteran who goes to the VA, regardless if you're disabled or not, and you're struggling, they might, the way this memo plays out, they might not let you go. Mm-hmm. And I need people to understand that our veterans swore an oath to the Constitution to protect this country. And I'm my brother's a vet, my father, my 3 uncles are veterans, and my grandfather is a vet. My brother and my grandfather and one of my uncles actually served in combat. And so, and my uncle just passed away almost 4 months ago from the effects of his military service due to cancer. And
sorry to hear that.
We made promises to these people to take care of them. All was against this promise. So if anything, please, and I say this as somebody who, who has family members who are vets, please call to fight for our veterans, because they already have fought for us and put their bodies on the line. I'm not even asking for myself, because I could fight for myself. I don't have the same, I have different barriers, and also fight for our kids. As somebody who was in special education and who understands what it means to be mainstreamed and not have to do pullouts in the last 3 years of high school, because I was able to get my accommodations before Olmstead, and now they want to roll that back and start pullouts and, giving school districts the ability to literally segregate kids. They're doing that in New Hampshire, and I believe it's Nashua, New Hampshire. They're putting all the disabled kids in one school because it's a cost. That's what they're saying. And so I don't know if that helps what I'm saying, why I'm saying what I'm saying. And also, just FYI, if we don't speak up for our disabled neighbors, they're going to criminalize dissent. All of us who are speaking out against class, people like Graham Plattner.
I was just going to say that, of to bring this around to the start of our conversation, of if we need a living example of someone who needs the support from the VA post service, we have Graham Plattner.
Right. I'm so sorry to do this, you two. I just got hit with the worst migraine. I think I need to drop. And,
I can see that I was like, are you okay over there? You were wiping your eyes.
I'm not. I'm having a coughing fit. And
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I get it. I've had to end live stream because of it.
Lauren, we really appreciate everyone who has stuck with us, because we are way over time too.
Yeah, keep talking. I'm gonna drop.
No, I have to go to Lawrence. I have to go to work. You know me and my 8:00 a.m. drop usually. So let us wrap this up, because life keeps happening. It has been so wonderful having a chance to speak with you and to be able to bring you on during Disability Pride Month. Your point of view is so valid.
Because you're one of us. Nieta. Like we could talk to you forever. You're fascinating. You've led an amazing life, and music and a million politics and a million other things. So please, please come back and
I definitely will. I am gonna just propose this, like let you think about it. Next October is one. It's my birthday. I have like the big birthday. You know, like
nice.
Oh, okay.
I leave my 40s.
Oh
And
yeah.
so 40 status also employment disability employment month. I always like forget the actual name of it. So maybe we could talk about, how people with disabilities are disproportionately unemployed and why Olmstead's so important. Like we have to start improving the ADA because yes, we can have people with disabilities in the least restrictive environment at home, but if people with disabilities also can't get jobs because of the other problems with the ADA,
Yeah.
then we're stuck. So I appreciate it. I also, like I'm also now like running up against like my maintenance guy's got to come back in like 15 minutes, so I also gotta peace out myself.
Yep.
So
Everyone take great care today. I will be back on at 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight for I Write Out Loud. It's a political firebrand week, so we will be continuing to talk this conversation about Graham Plattner and about what it means to be a woman in the United States right now, realizing how much the U.S. hates women and disabled folks. And then tomorrow, come back for Fucked Up Friday. We have God coming on as our guest. God is our guest, you guys. I'm I'm already working on all of my Are You There, God? It's me, Dana, and song lyrics about God, quips to throw that I'm sure he's already heard a million times, but I'm so excited. Hope to
thank
see you all there. Love you,
and I'm
mean
gonna
it.
say peace out, and thank you so much, the two of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All
Thank
right,
Bye,
you.
Nieta.
all right,
All
bye.
right. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Love you, mean it. Bye. Mwah. Clicking the button.
Bye.